Hitler's escape. What if Adolf Hitler survived World War II and lived until 1995? That's the Hitler survival conspiracy. There are a bunch of different ways people claim Hitler may have survived the war. Some say he flew to the moon, while others think he was cloned. But the most popular theory is that Hitler escaped his bunker and fled to Argentina. It's a massively popular theory with a surprising amount of evidence to back it up. On May 2, 1945, the Soviet Union captured Berlin. The Red Army discovered Hitler dead in his bunker with Eva Braun, but the report wasn't initially made public. Joseph Stalin, leader of the Soviet Union, wanted the Western Allies to be confused. Rumors started to spread that Hitler had survived, and almost immediately after World War II, Russian disinformation began to disrupt the West. There were unconfirmed reports that Hitler was seen in an Austrian cafe or that he was spotted in Indonesia. Photographs were printed in newspapers that showed the Nazi dictator still alive and well. There was even one rather unfortunate man who was grilled by police because he looked too much like Hitler. In the end, though, the Americans and British learned the truth, but the Soviets certainly stirred things up. So what's the deal with the Argentina conspiracy? The thing is that it's rooted in fact. Many Nazis did escape to Argentina after the war. There's still a large German population in Argentina because of how many Nazis escaped to South America. Adolf Eichmann, the man who implemented the final solution, escaped to Argentina, and so too did Joseph Mengele, who's also called the Angel of Death. A few years ago, an elderly woman in Argentina named Catalina Gomera told a strange story. She supposedly worked at a house where a mysterious German man showed up one day. She wasn't allowed to see the man, but had to leave him traditional German meals. Most historians say that Hitler did die in his bunker, as was allegedly confirmed by dental records. But there's always the possibility that somehow he cleverly got away. And now for number 7. But first, it's shout-out time. I wanted to give a big thank you to Detica Boyd and Bobby Drake for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about amazing discoveries, or dinosaurs, or World War II conspiracies. The Nazi Iron Man from space. Between 10,000 and 20,000 years ago, the Chinga meteorite broke into fragments and rained down over the border region between Russia and Mongolia. From one of those meteorite pieces, ancient Buddhists in Tibet carved a statue of the deity Vairava. The sculpture is exceptionally mysterious because although it was supposedly Tibetans who made it, nobody knows for sure. Experts think it's about 3,000 years old, but there's just not enough information to confirm its origins. The even bigger mystery here is that the statue was supposedly acquired by a secret Nazi expedition to Tibet in 1938 and 1939. The statue was kept in a private collection in Germany until it was put up for auction in 2007. The sculpture is definitely built from a meteorite, as has been confirmed by researcher Elmer Bachler, who analyzed the composition of the statue. The figure contains iron, nickel, cobalt, and other elements found in space rocks. It's known as the Iron Man statue, and it's the only known example of a human figure carved into a meteorite, making it one of the rarest artifacts on the planet. But what does this have to do with Nazis? Between 1938 and 1939, German SS officer Ernst Schaefer led a covert operation to search Tibet for the truth of the Aryan race. Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the SS, was obsessed with Asian mysticism. He was also supposedly convinced that the ruins of Atlantis were located somewhere in Tibet. Himmler was under the impression that Atlantis was the home of the original Aryans who once ruled the entire planet. The whole point of sending scientists to Tibet was to confirm the existence of the Atlanteans and the mighty Aryans. Of course, though, the scientists found nothing of the sort, but they did bring back some artifacts, including the Iron Man statue. Hitler on the moon. What if Neil Armstrong wasn't the first man on the moon? What if the first man on the moon was really Adolf Hitler? This crazy theory says that Hitler escaped Germany after World War II, but instead of retreating to Argentina, he made it to a secret space base, and from there he took a rocket straight to the moon. It's a hard thing to believe, seeing as the first unmanned moon landing was the Soviets' Luna 9 in 1966. Nothing reached the moon until 20 years after Hitler was already dead. It was an extremely important test, with Luna 9 proving that a spacecraft could land on the surface without sinking into some mysterious lunar quicksand. The rumors of Hitler being an astronaut aren't even recent, they've been around since right after the war. Rumors started to spread that Hitler had already established a secret space program designed to get German astronauts on the moon before anyone else. But if there were no human-made machines capable of space travel in the 1940s, how would Hitler have possibly gotten to the moon? The answer, according to the theory, is an alien ship. The Germans supposedly captured a UFO, just like the one that was allegedly taken by the US military in Roswell in 1947. It's said that Hitler's scientists figured out how to pilot the spacecraft, and Hitler then used it to reach the moon. If the theory is to be believed, Hitler spent his final hours as the only man on the moon, and that would mean that his bones are still up there somewhere. The secret nuclear bunker. There's a secret nuclear bunker hidden in the English countryside. The bunker is totally invisible underneath a seemingly ordinary cottage. And while the cottage may look warm and cozy, it's really just a cover for the bunker that was built by the British government in the 1950s. It's called the Kelvedon Hatch Secret Nuclear Bunker, and it's part of the government's plan to protect their most important officials in case of nuclear Armageddon. It used to be a secret, but now it's a tourist attraction. The owner is Mike Parrish, a fifth-generation farmer. He inherited the land from his family, and at the same time he also inherited ownership of the fantastic Cold War facility. In the 1950s, Winston Churchill was terrified of Russia launching an atomic bomb. If such a thing were to happen, the government needed somewhere to hide their top members. Otherwise, Britain would fall into anarchy. So, in 1952, they built the bunker on the parish's farmland, just 30 miles from London. The government hoped that 30 miles was enough to protect them from the blast and the radiation. Underneath the foundation of the farmhouse is a tunnel measuring 360 feet long. It leads to the bunker, which is buried under 100 feet of dirt. It's over 3 levels, and it measures 35,000 square feet in total, designed to hold around 600 people. It also wasn't the only one of its kind. In the 1950s, 18 other secret nuclear bunkers were built across England, each one to protect its own regional government. As for the ordinary people, well, they were just going to have to deal with the bombs. The Lost Submarine. In 1938, an enormous T-class submarine was launched from Britain. It was called the HMS Triumph, a beast of a machine that carried out over a dozen missions against the Axis enemies. It participated in at least 20 missions, with who knows how many more clandestine operations. It attacked Axis ships, landed British commandos, and rescued captured soldiers. But then, something mysterious happened. In January 1942, the HMS Triumph suddenly went missing. There were 64 people on board when the submarine vanished into thin air, and nobody knew what happened to the submarine or its crew until now. The search for the submarine started in 1998 with Greek diver Kostas Thoktaridis, and finally, after over 20 years, determined to find the lost sub, Kostas' team recently uncovered its remains 670 feet deep in the Aegean Sea. Kostas posted videos and images of the shipwreck, proving to the world that he really did find it. But what happened to the HMS Triumph? That's the most important question here. According to Kostas, it was diving deep in its final moments. The team discovered that the sub's hatches and periscopes were down. They also identified damage from a powerful explosion at the sub's fore section. It looks like the Triumph fired several torpedoes before something blew it open like a ruptured tin can. Clearly, the submarine was involved in a fight. But who was the submarine fighting against? And what was its final mission? Sadly, finding the wreckage hasn't answered those questions. So the last operation of the HMS Triumph remains a mystery today. What do you think was responsible for sinking the HMS Triumph? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel. The KV-6 Behemoth. It wasn't until the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991 that the world finally learned about the shocking secret weapons they developed during World War II. One of the most impressive and baffling creations of the Soviet Union was the KV-6 Behemoth tank. Just like its name suggests, it was truly a behemoth of a tank. KV tanks were well known during World War II. They were named after Soviet Defense Commissar Kliment Voroshilov, and they were known by the Allies for their heavy armor protection. They were used to combat the Germans when they invaded the USSR. The most powerful of the KV tanks were the KV-1 and the KV-2. They had so much armor that even the German tank guns had a difficult time destroying them. They were like armored monsters on the battlefield, but they were nothing compared to the Behemoth. The creation of the Behemoth was the brainchild of Joseph Stalin. He wanted to create a land battleship, something truly monstrous that would be invincible against the measly German tanks. The tank was going to have 3 large turrets on it, with armor like a reinforced bank vault. But when the designers got together to solve the problem, they didn't really know where to start. They told Stalin that anything as big as what he wanted was hardly going to be able to move, and it definitely wouldn't be able to turn. But Stalin said he didn't care. It only needed to drive straight to Berlin. The KV-6 Behemoth was an astounding 51 feet long. It weighed about 276,000 pounds, and it was absolutely armed to the teeth. It boasted 2 large cannons, 1 anti-tank gun, 2 machine guns, and 2 belt machine guns. But that's not all. It was also armed with 16 rocket launchers, 2 flamethrowers, and 2 Maxim machine guns. It was very much a land battleship. It wasn't just a prototype either. They really built this thing. It was finished in the winter of 1941 and was subsequently transported to Moscow. However, the rear turret malfunctioned, resulting in an internal explosion that blew up the tank and killed 15 soldiers. After its destruction, a second prototype was built, but it too suffered an unfortunate fate. It was damaged while crossing over a ravine. Stalin insisted that they keep trying though. The third prototype was built and managed to shoot down 3 planes, but it tipped over in a ditch because of its gun's massive recoil. Finally, the Behemoth was cancelled and everyone who worked on its design was sent to the Gulag. But in truth, the KV-6 Behemoth wasn't in fact a real machine. No prototypes were built and nobody was sent to the Gulag. It's a myth, just like the myth that Adolf Hitler flew an alien ship to the moon. It sounds believable, but it was all dreamt up by model builder Brian Fowler in 1995. He created the Behemoth using a bunch of model tank kits. Brian said he never intended to create a hoax or to start a myth about World War II. Somehow, though, his design was touted as a real historical Soviet project, when in reality, it wasn't. But people still believe the Behemoth was a real Soviet secret. The Village of Clones. There's an unexplainable phenomenon that's been happening for decades in a remote Brazilian village. The village is home to a disturbing number of twins. Dozens and dozens of twins with blonde hair and blue eyes. It's been suggested that the village was where Joseph Mengele fled after he escaped Germany at the end of World War II. Mengele was the very definition of a mad scientist, and apparently he may have taken his mad science to this remote part of Brazil, where he tried to genetically engineer a master race of Aryans. Let's start with the facts, and don't worry, this isn't like the KV-6 Behemoth. National Geographic even did an entire special on the mysterious village. It's called Candido Godoy, and it's home to about 6,000 people divided between 80 families. At any given time, there are roughly 44 sets of twins living in the village, and that's miles ahead of the ordinary rate for having twins, greater than any other observed national twinning rate in the world. There's something very strange going on here, causing mothers to give birth to twins at an unprecedented rate. But what exactly is going on here? Jorge Camarasa, an expert on the Nazi regime, claims Mengele traveled to Candido Godoy in the 1960s, posing as a doctor specializing in pregnant women. But 20 years earlier, when he worked at the Auschwitz concentration camp, he conducted all kinds of bizarre lab experiments. He was obsessed, and this is known through plenty of historical records, with discovering the secret of twin births. He believed that the secret twins would be the breakthrough to create a fertile Aryan race for Adolf Hitler. In 1945, Mengele disappeared to South America. He was last seen in Buenos Aires in 1959. Then a mysterious doctor appeared in Candido Godoy to treat pregnant women. Ever since, the village has been a hotspot for identical twins. Not just any twins though, identical twins that look just like Hitler's fantasy of the perfect Aryan. Is it all just a coincidence, or did Joseph Mengele succeed in creating his army of clones? Hitler's frozen base. The final conspiracy of what happened to Hitler after World War II involves a secret Nazi base in Antarctica. The conspiracy is that after Hitler left Berlin, he got on a ship to Argentina, but then he left Argentina and lived the rest of his life at a covert base in the ice. In the late 1930s, the Nazis had a big interest in Antarctica. An expedition was even sent there on December 17, 1938. The MS Schwabenland was sent on a mission to claim part of Dronningmord land for Germany. Officially, this was to protect the German whaling industry from the Norwegians, who'd already claimed the area before the Germans arrived. That's the official story, but it might not be the real one. Conspiracy theorists say the real point of the mission was to establish a base of operations in Antarctica. But there aren't any legitimate records to prove they built a military base in the icy continent. There also aren't any documents that confirm Hitler went to Antarctica at all. As far as the public is concerned, there's no secret German base carved into the ice. But if it was a secret, the public wouldn't know, would they? It could theoretically be that Hitler and Eva Braun lived the rest of their lives clubbing seals and eating penguins on an ice shelf. Do you believe Hitler escaped World War II alive? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.